Hi guys, Katie here. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a Let's Talk About It video, and we are doing Disney Fan Theories Part 11, and this part is all about movies with animals in them. So there are quite a few that are missing out of here, and don't think that I forgot about them. I'm just doing separate videos for those ones because they had more theories to them. So yeah. So this specific video has 101 Dalmatians, Ratatouille, Lion King, Zootopia, Aristocats, and Aladdin / Jungle Book. So, yeah. And yes, I know most Disney movies have animals with them, but these are ones where the animals are the main part of the movie. Okay, we're going to start with 101 Dalmatians. Anita is wealthy, indifferent, and possibly in on the puppy heist. Anita Radcliffe might be one of the most ambiguous central characters in any of the animated Disney movies. Other than the fact that she met Cruella de Vil in school back in the day, she's a complete mystery and honestly doesn't do a whole lot in the movie. But much like the FedEx logo, there's some detail in the negative space that's easy to overlook. Anita displays her character and intentions with the things she doesn't say and doesn't do. Anita comes from a wealthy background. When we meet Roger at the beginning of the movie, he's living in a disgusting, dumpy apartment. But once he marries Anita, they move to a spacious townhouse with multiple rooms and a nanny. Pongo describes it as a small house near the park, a modest little place, but it's a massive improvement from where he and Roger used to live. And since Roger's songs still hadn't been recognized, he hadn't contributed much money to the family yet. So where did this nice home come from? Anita. At the end of the movie, Anita notes that Roger's slanderous hit song brought in more money than they could dream, but there are no real changes to their house, clothing, or lifestyle at all. It doesn't sound like they needed or even really wanted the money Roger brought in. Sounds like they were doing just fine all along. Anita is indifferent. Right before Cruella's unannounced introduction, Perdita freaks out and hides. As a pet owner, Anita should have noticed this, but she doesn't. Cruella walks in waving around a stinky cigarette that Anita visibly dislikes, and then extinguishes it in a cupcake, but Anita doesn't say anything. Anita doesn't really seem comfortable or uncomfortable here. She seems indifferent about the whole thing, even when Cruella mocks her home, social status, and husband. Anita's visibly relieved once Cruella leaves, but why doesn't she tell her to fuck right off? She could say something simple like, "Stop mocking my husband's music and get that cigarette out of my home, you tacky scarecrow." Instead, she promises to let Cruella know when the puppies are born in 3 weeks. Why, Anita? Because she's indifferent and probably in on the heist. Anita's loyalties are questionable. Right after Pongo learns Perdita is pregnant, Cruella shows up demanding to see the puppies. But this presents us with an uncomfortable realization. How could Cruella possibly know about the puppies, Anita? And are we supposed to believe that Anita doesn't know that Cruella loves fur coats? It's literally the first thing we hear Cruella say she loves. Cruella asking about the puppy's spots should have been a red flag from the start. Once the puppies are born, Cruella again just shows up. What the hell, Anita? And tries to buy the puppies. She bullies Anita and belittles Roger, and at this point it kind of looks like Anita stands up for the puppies. But something fascinating happens right before Roger stands up to Cruella. As Cruella tries to sign a check, she accidentally splashes ink all over Roger and Pongo, and now Roger is covered in spots just like a Dalmatian. Roger sides with Team Dalmatian and stands up for the puppies, pleasing Pongo in the process. But another fascinating part is that Anita doesn't get covered by any spots, and although it seemed like she was standing up for the puppies earlier, she gets very quiet when Cruella pulls out her checkbook. Even when Cruella asks if Roger is serious, Anita only says that he seems serious, but not that she agrees with him. After Cruella storms off, Anita praises Roger by giving him a big hug, but Roger stands stone still, suggesting that he was also shocked by his bold behavior. But maybe it's more than that. Maybe he's annoyed at Anita's indifference and frustrated that he has to step in to defend their new family from Anita's cruel childhood friend. Later, when the puppies are stolen, Roger is adamant that Corella did it, but Anita misdirects him by declaring that Corella isn't a thief. But that's exactly what she is. Anita clearly doesn't know this friend very well, and it's starting to make Anita seem like she's in on this hustle. Too extreme? Then why would she inform Corella of Perdita's pregnancy and the puppy's delivery? And when Corella gets disgusted that the newborn puppies look like white rats, why did Anita go out of her way to inform Corella that the puppies would get their spots in a few weeks? And then why does she go silent when the checkbook comes out? Either she's in on the heist or she really wants to get rid of the puppies. Okay, my thoughts. I think, although this is an interesting theory, and it's something that would make sense in this day's time, I think you have to think about when the movie came out, and a woman's role in a marriage when the movie came out. I think that Disney's view of women in, what was this, the 40s, the 50s that this movie came out, was very low. I mean, the men were always the heroes. They were always the ones that stepped in. And I think they just made Anita be naive and, helpless and needing of Roger to step in and be like, hey, no, you're not getting these puppies. I don't really think that they made Anita's character evil. I just think that they made her simple. And yeah. Because even when you think about it, think about even the perspective with Pongo and Perdita. Pongo is very, very outgoing and very, very in charge, and Perdita looks upon him for help often. And I think that's just a sign of the times when this movie came out. I think that's just how they portrayed female characters. We see things a lot different now in 2023 because we know that women aren't just feeble, meek, little, small creatures. And we're able to stand up for ourselves and have our own voices. And I just don't think that was the case back then. So it's a very interesting theory. I just don't think it's what Disney was going for. Okay, another one for 101 Dalmatians. There's a specific reason why there's a collie in the original 101 Dalmatians. Pongo's barking sound effects were taken from the Lassie series. Since Disney was using their sound effects, they probably had to put a collie in to make the directors and producers of Lassie happy. That's very possible. I also think it could be because they were trying to put breeds that people would recognize. And because Lassie was so big, obviously people would recognize collies because of Lassie. But yeah, it could be because the sound effects were taken. Okay, now we're going on to Ratatouille. Remy was Anton Ego's mother reincarnated. Remy is different than all the other rats. He is uncomfortable walking on all fours and seems to possess any especially keen sense of smell and taste. It is not far-fetched to believe he was a human in the past life. The reason he was able to impress Anton Ego while even the great Gusteau was not able to was because he subconsciously knew Ego's taste. That's why Ego has his flashback when he eats it. It was the same taste from his childhood, and it was the same taste because his reincarnated mother prepared it for him. I mean, it's possible, but I always thought that Remy was kind of like Gusteau reincarnated, in a way. That's what I thought. Okay, this one is an Up/Ratatouille theory. The events of Up play a role in Ratatouille. At the end of Ratatouille, we see Remy, Linguini, Colette, and Ego build a new bistro after the original restaurant was closed down due to rat infestation, and it has become massively popular. However, one question remains. Do the customers know that one of the chefs is a rat? I say they do. If we take a look in the Pixar theory, Up is part of that universe. Up reveals Charles Muntz discovering sentience within animals, hence why he develops technology to bridge communicating between him and his dogs. But how did this technology become known? Well, at the end, Carl and Russell brought this technology back after leaving Paradise Falls. People see the dogs talking, and suddenly the news spread like wildfire. Around that time, Gusto's restaurant was shut down because no one wanted to eat at a place filled with rats. But then the people learned about the sentient dogs and started to grow suspicious which animal possessed that same sentience. Then came Remy, who proved to people that he is the finest chef in all of France, and with that the rest is history. So in short, the people of Paris do know Remy is a rat and a chef, and they don't mind. It's all thanks to Up that the ending to Ratatouille is possible. I mean, that kind of makes sense. Kind of, in a way. I don't really know. I don't really have any thoughts about it. Okay, the last Ratatouille theory. Remy is Gusto reincarnated, which is a theory that I originally thought too. Why does Remy have such talent at cooking and such a refined palate and sense of smell? It is implied that other rats do not possess such refined taste, and his brother shows no ability to differentiate between literal garbage and higher quality food. So why is Remy special? My theory is that Remy is Gusto reincarnated. Gusto died from grief after he lost a star after Anton Ego's scathing review. While he was undoubtedly a talented chef, perhaps he led an immoral life in private, which is not unusual for celebrity chefs. Michelin star chefs, after all, have been known for creating extremely toxic work environments as they seek perfectionism and the stroking of their egos. It is also possible that Linguini, Gusto's long-lost son, was conceived from an affair, which explains why Linguini's mother never told anyone about his heritage, and also swore Skinner to secrecy as well on that matter, so as not to damage anyone's reputation. Gusto died, and the bad karma from his past life resulted in him being reborn as a rat. This also explains why Remy has so many visions of him. These are presented as a figment of his imagination, but perhaps it's him connecting with his past life in a similar way to how Aang in Avatar: The Last Airbender can communicate with his past lives. This is why Remy has such a knack for fixing Gusto's recipe. He has memories of them buried in his subconscious. He knows exactly what went wrong with those dishes without even needing to taste them first to decide what to fix. The ruined soup, he saw that Linguini added it. He saw what Linguini added in and knew exactly how to counteract what he added. The special order, he knew why it failed the first time, and without trying the anchovy licorice sauce, he knew that would instead complement the dish better. Even the ratatouille that Ego loved, he knew the negative feedback that Ego said the first time, so he was familiar with his palate, knew exactly what kind of dish, therefore Ego would enjoy the second time around. Again, I think that's a very plausible theory. Yeah, I think that theory is very, very plausible. Okay, we're moving on to The Lion King. Adult Simba tried to spare Scar's life not because it was the right thing to do, but he realized at heart he was a man-child. Near the end of The Lion King, when Scar is begging for mercy, as you probably remember, Scar said, "You wouldn't kill your own uncle." And Simba says, "No, Scar, I'm not like you." Now, when he says that, one could infer he's just saying that, unlike Scar, he would never kill a family member. But what did he say afterwards? Wasn't it run away, Scar, and never return? Now, remember when Simba saw Mufasa die and Scar convinced him he was responsible? Didn't Scar literally say the same thing to Simba? In other words, Simba talked to Scar, an adult, literally the same way Scar talked to him when he was a child. And why do you think this is? When he was young, because Scar was a grown-up, Simba thought that he was a mature, trusted authority figure. He's an adult after all, so he must know much more than he does. But once Simba saw Scar groveling, begging for mercy, as scared for facing the consequences of killing Mufasa as he was when he was a cub, he no longer thought of Scar as this evil tyrant mastermind, but he saw him for the pathetic man-child he really was. It didn't help for Scar that until recently Simba himself was a pathetic man-child. But regardless of Simba's maturity, at that moment, Simba saw himself in Scar back when he was young because he saw that scared little cub afraid of facing the consequences for what he did at the moment that Scar was embodying. Therefore, he decided to give him a taste of his own medicine and banish the scared little cub right in front of his eyes, just like Scar had banished him when he was an actual cub. In other words, he gave Scar a taste of his own medicine by treating him like a cub because he is an overgrown cub. Mufasa and Zazu also probably thought of Scar as a man-child, might explain why they didn't take him seriously at first. If you remember, Zazu tells Scar at the beginning, "Didn't your mother ever tell you not to play with your food?" That's something an adult usually tells a kid, not a fellow adult. You could pass that off as Zazu being Zazu, but it's probably because he's well aware of how immature Scar really is, no matter how much he tries to pretend to be this suave, charismatic guy. After all, if he's going to act like a child, he might as well be treated like one. Mufasa also probably knew Scar was a mopey, overgrown cub and thought because of that he was all talk and no action. While he probably didn't have a child to prevent Scar from getting into power, he most likely knew Scar couldn't handle the responsibilities of being a king due to how little he progressed since he was a teenager. That makes a lot of sense. But I think Simba said Scar's words back to him as kind of like, look at how the tables turned kind of thing. I don't think it was because he saw him as like a man-child. I think it was kind of like, look how the tables have turned. And he probably just saw how pathetic he was. But, I mean, it does make sense because you're right, there are things that Zazu and Mufasa said and did when it came to Scar that seemed like they were treating him as a child. So, I mean, that makes sense. Okay, this is another Lion King one. Scar wanted to overthrow Mufasa's cruel, oppressive regime. Oh my gosh. Yes, Scar was undoubtedly an ambitious politician who wanted personal gain and power for himself. But he also saw that Mufasa was running an oppressive government that resulted in a dystopian world. The hyenas were segregated from society and deemed lesser beings, banished to live in the elephant graveyard slums while the lions lived in a lush green oasis. The lions were at the top of the food chain, and everyone else besides them were second-class citizens. Scar had hoped that one day he would be king through natural succession, and he could avoid violence, but when Simba was born, he knew that Mufasa would indoctrinate Simba in his apartheid policies and beliefs and brainwash him. This is exactly what happens in the movie too, with Mufasa showing indoctrinating Simba with all his separate but equal nonsense, and that them eating and oppressing other species as they please is all part of the circle of life. So while his methods were unethical, Scar ultimately sought his coup to establish a more just society, where lions and hyenas come together for a great and glorious future. This was truly progressive of him as he sought to end years of segregation and apartheid and have hyenas finally recognized as equal members of society. The problem? The elite of society, the lions, not only did not accept Scar as the legitimate king, but they also clung to their age-old prejudices and never accepted Scar's vision of hyenas being equal to lions. So they effectively sabotaged Scar's new regime and his attempts to rule. It was revealed at the end of the movie that they had the power of calling the herds back to Pride Rock with their roars. They intentionally withheld these roars and allowed the herd to leave, basically self-sanctioning their own country to cause a famine and make Scar look bad. Scar's a lion and he knows this. That's why he keeps blaming the lionesses for the famine and insisting they aren't doing their job. The lionesses' plan were simple. They would allow the food situation in Pride Rock to become dire, turning lionesses, hyenas, and any other remaining prey against Scar's government. Then Nala would leave Pride Rock to try to enlist other lion factions to help him overthrow Scar and overturn his societal reforms. What they did not expect was Nala would find Simba still alive and in exile. This was even better, as they would no longer need a quid pro quo agreement with a foreign lion Pride. They had the rightful heir to Pride Rock now, who would unite all lionesses behind him. They would not need to deal with any lionesses who might choose to side with Scar over a coalition containing a foreign pride. With all the lionesses on one side, they had more than enough strength to overthrow Scar, who had already lost the support of many of his hyenas due to famine. Scar was certainly not a good person, but he was someone willing to do what had to be done for the greater good. It was the other lions who could not let go of their prejudices and were willing to cause a great famine that nearly destroyed their own country rather than allow racial integration. I think you have to think about it this way. Why were the hyenas any different than any of the prey animals? Why should they be first-class citizens if the prey animals weren't either? I don't, maybe that's wrong of me I just don't understand why the hyenas were better than any of the other ones. Like, if you're going to make everyone equal, you can't just have the lions and the hyenas be at the top. But if you don't have them at the top, or if everyone's the same, then they're not going to eat. And then they're all going to die off. So, I mean, I don't think Scar was doing this for his own good. I think he just wanted the power. And, you know, hyenas are known to take down lions because they travel in packs and hunt in packs. And lions, you know, can't take down a whole pack of hyenas at one time. Yeah, no, I don't think there's any situation where Scar could be seen as the good guy. I don't see it. Okay, we're moving on to Zootopia. If Judy Hopps was the first bunny officer, the small herbivore community must be rife with crime. The movie sets up that the carnivores, at least from a police and governing perspective, don't really care about the herbivore community, considering them lesser than carnivores. Although the movie portrays that both herbivores and carnivores have a mostly peaceful coexistence, the fact that no one has been a bunny cop in history, according to Judy's father, means that essentially the small herbivore community is pretty self-governed with no real police presence. Or if there is a police department in the outer regions like Bunnyboro, they do not interact with the herbivore community on a ground-level basis. Judy's parents are able to grow a plant that is essentially a psychotropic drug with no government overreach. A vole controls an entire black market empire, complete with polar bears in a Godfather style. But realistically, even if you just focus on the city of Zootopia, the police department would need entire divisions of small rodents to manage crimes in Little Rodentia. The onion stealer Weaselton knew this, which is why he slipped into Little Rodentia with little to no worries about being apprehended. I mean, I think that makes sense. They probably... And I think... In a way, I think when you think about carnivores versus herbivores, you think that the carnivores are going to be more susceptible to crime, even though they have this coexistent peace thing. I think it's just kind of a thing that we think that carnivores are bad and herbivores are good. I think they were kind of just playing off the stereotypes there. Okay, another Zootopia theory. You can be anything message doesn't actually reflect the society it shows. In Zootopia, there's this obvious message being pushed that you can be anything you want and it doesn't matter if you were born a tiger or a bunny or a fox. And this seems to be the concluding message. But do they actually show this as true? The fox is a sly trickster. The bunny is an optimistic character. The weasel is a weaselly con man. The lion is a strong leader. The bull chief is a hard-headed boss. The predators are the scary enemies, etc. They all live up to their stereotypes. The actual conclusion seems to be that your DNA does in fact have a major effect on your personality. Obviously, there are some rare outliers, the first bunny police officer, but as a general rule, this is not what is shown. Most animals are, according to the message shown in the movie, primarily affected by the species they were born of, and in fact, the ones that do push the boundaries seem to come across unnatural and unhealthy. The cheetah who embraces his obese lifestyle, the childhood fox friend who comes across as wimpy and stupid, Miss Bellwether who tries to overthrow the traditional lion leadership is basically a psychopath. So is the movie's actual underlying message that we can really change who we are? Not saying I agree with this message, just that it may be the real message of the movie, but maybe I'm reading things wrong. I think the message of the movie was, despite the fact that you might live up to a stereotype, you can be whoever you want to be. I think that's where my mind is going with this. Okay, the last Zootopia theory. Zootopia, the awful reality of the new harmony between predator and prey. In Zootopia, predators and prey have learned to coexist together in harmony, abandoning their primitive savage ways, and it's a very bad thing. During a conversation with her parents, it is revealed that Judy Hopps has 275 siblings. Makes sense, she's a rabbit, and part of the survival strategy of rabbits is to have as many offspring as possible to compensate for the ones that get eaten by predators. Except the predators have stopped eating them, but prey is clearly still reproducing at normal rates. There are two possibilities of what is happening in the world of Zootopia, and both are some seriously dark shit. A. The government has established absolutely heartless, but very necessary, population control measures and mass culling of predator and prey alike. Most predators don't survive to adulthood in the wild, and they, too, are reproducing too quickly, are part of everyday reality, however unpleasant. Maybe the Zootopia government has gone full Soylent Green, and are feeding the cold animals back to the predator population. This makes the most sense, and would explain two things. The seething resentment and fear that prey still has for predators. You don't need to look to your evolutionary past when you still have the horrors of the present, and it would explain what the carnivore species are eating, as many, such as felines, are obligate carnivores and can't eat vegetables. B. Zootopia is teetering on the edge of ecological collapse, as it will get to the point where crops cannot be produced anywhere fast enough to feed a population exploding out of control. Eventually, the harmony between predator and prey will collapse, and all aspects of society will turn on each other once the assurance of famine becomes a reality. Either way, there is something seriously awful going on behind the scenes of this movie. Oh, I agree. I agree full-heartedly. Something's not right here. Because that's one family having 276 children. Where are they all supposed to go? And what if they all have 276 children? Like, the bunny population would be crazy overcrowded. And with the predators not being able to eat any of them, they're going to die out because they're going to starve. So it's definitely something that I don't know if Disney really thought about when making Zootopia. Okay, the next theory is an Aristocats theory. Aristocats is the sequel to Anastasia. It's a weird theory, I know, except it isn't weird at all. Do yourself a favor and go rewatch Anastasia and then the Aristocats back to back. There are some matching themes. Anastasia, the Duchess, goes on a great adventure to find her family in Paris. I believe that after the events of Anastasia, she lived a full life in Paris and eventually got her little white cat aptly named Duchess. Madame Adelaide, who I believe is actually Anastasia, has no remaining family to write into her will, not a husband or any kids, just her cat and Edgar the butler. There are a lot of clues hidden about the foreground and background of the movies as well. The more you pay attention, the more you notice. I've actually never seen Anastasia, but I don't know. If you have, let me know if you think they're similar. I might have to watch Anastasia. Okay, the next Aristocat theory. He could have just waited. I just started watching the Aristocats, and to the point where Ma'am was making her will, and realized that Edgar could have just survived a few more years and still get the money, the estate without going through all the trouble. A man starts to develop baldness around age 50, and a cat's lifespan is 12 years average. A cat can have kittens by the age of 1, so let's say Duchess is 1, and kittens are, well, kittens. That's a total of basically 13 years total. By that time, Edgar will be 63. So within his prime. If only he waited a few more years, he could have had everything, because by that time, everyone probably would have passed away. I mean, in a way, yes, but also in a way, the kittens could have had kittens, and they could have had kittens, and they could have had kittens, and so far, so forth down the line, and the will would still stick. Possibly. So it all just depends on how she worded her will. Okay, the last theory is the Aladdin/Jungle Book theory, and it's just titled Raja/Shere Khan. Is it possible that Shere Khan hates men so much because they murdered his mate and took his cubs to be sold, and one of those cubs ended up being gifted to Princess Jasmine, who in turn named that cub Raja? That would make me hate men. I mean, it's possible. I don't know when the Jungle Book is set, like, year-wise. But it could just be that they're just two different tigers. So, that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to read over these theories on your own, the links to them are in the description of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.